out my voice, but made it unbelievable, baby. Oh, okay, enjoy.
To see you cry, I can't stand to see you cry. It feels bad to see you cry.
I can't stand to see you cry, no, baby, now.
wife and the boss. Had all three of them liking it raw. Them put on weight from fighting them all. In the mall, you see it and like it, it's yours. That's a nice fit, you ain't gotta price shit. I pays for it like the mics in the stores. We pack big bags out of Saks Fifth Ave. Mr. Put them in the back with a fifth back. I need space for all of my women's. In these days, the argument's limited. I really play for the broad if you trippin'. It's the game and all in the pimpin'. You got one, that's cool. Nowadays, everybody got two. That'll do, but I need another one. Yeah, there's another one. One more, two, and a not enough for me. Line them up. One more, two, and not enough for me. No. One more, two, and not enough for me. No. One more, two, and not enough for me. No. Yeah. Let's see, I got one, got two, got. Tell me, do you got what I need? A fourth party that could run our team, you know. Keep them in line, cause one might need it. Easy the guy that your might agree with. She might do some freak nigga shit on ya. I keep to the beats and boning them. Yeah, whole body blingin' like 3PO, nigga. And when I pull that fucker out, it attracts the gold niggas with the big old jelly smothered out. Make deal when I tuck it in. But the truck got the fifth element like tuckers in it. All you hear is them cutting 10 inches beating like 15s. Why can I fit in them jeans? You seem like a true team player for real, love. With your boy J to the dealer, yeah. You got one, that's cool. Nowadays, everybody got two. That'll do, but I need another one. Yep, I need another one. One more, and a two, not enough for me. Line them up for you, nigga. One, two, not enough for me, no. One more, two, not enough for me, no. One more, two, not enough for me, no. One more,
Okay. There comes a time.
Mic's on here. Check. How you doing? You
I'm
hear
good.
yourself okay?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, nice. Okay. We're live, man. Well, let's go ahead and tell the audience who you are and what you're doing at Florida State University.
Okay. My name is Leon Anderson Jr. Been here since fall of 1998. I was hired here as the jazz drum set teacher. And when I first started, I did the second jazz ensemble. I taught drum set lessons, and I helped to develop our jazz combo program. And then a few years after that, I got asked to do the top jazz ensemble and also kind of take over some of the leadership duties of the jazz program. And so at that point, I realized that, well, because I was the third addition to the faculty. There was Mr. Bill Kennedy here and then Mr. Bill Peterson. So I was number 3. So I was like, well, it would be great if we had a faculty band. So I said, I just played with a bass player in Atlanta who might be a really good candidate to bring here to kind of help at least make a faculty jazz quartet. So that's one of the first things I did was like we needed to add faculty. So we added a bass player, Mr. Rodney Jordan. Eventually added Scotty Barnhart on trumpet. Initially we had Paul McKee on trombone, and we had Nick Fenzer for a brief period, and now we have Kevin Jones. And since Bill Kennedy has retired, now we have David Detweiler, who's a former student of ours who went to New York. And when Bill retired, David was an obvious replacement for Bill. And now we have a guitar teacher that drives in from Atlanta. So I kind of was brought in to kind of help continue to develop the program, but also mainly just to teach drummers. Mm-hmm. So that's how I ended up here. Came here from New Orleans, Louisiana, which is like my second home. My first home is Shreveport, Louisiana. So
wonderful. Yeah. So we were saying before we started recording, I came to Florida State as an undergraduate student in 1998, which is the same year that you started. So my entire experience with Florida State is the same as yours.
Right.
One thing that I'm noticing now about myself is I think I started this job as the young guy, or at least young presenting, even if I'm not actually young.
Sure. Yeah.
You were once the young guy. Like I remember when you came to campus, there was a lot of excitement and energy about you being here.
Wow.
But you've been here for almost 3 decades.
Yeah.
You've developed this program, had a lot of administrative duties with the program in the past. Now you're kind of the old guy. How's that feel to be the person who's been around a while?
Well, first of all, to make it to the point to be an old guy, I feel blessed by that.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I woke up this morning. So I'm just glad to be here and to be a part of what's happening now. You know? So let's just keep it moving. I'm having a great time. I enjoy doing this. This is not work for me. I literally come to play drums every day at school and teach the music that I love. So hey man, I'm just gonna keep it going. I think the music kind of keeps you younger too.
Right. That's great. So that sort of leads into my next question, which is what's your favorite part about the job?
Yeah, everything. I love the students. I love connecting with the students. I love seeing a student progress from point A to point Z. I love to see them leave here and go out and do their thing, whether it's composing, whether it's, performing, whether it's teaching or what have you. So I really, there is a great reward in teaching. I saw that with my father and my mother because I grew up with 2 music education parents. So I saw the benefit of having students come back to you saying, oh, man, your father was a great mentor to me when I was in school. And I didn't understand it as a younger man, but now I do.
So tell me a little bit about that experience as a child growing up musically. But before we talk about your experiences as a child, talk to me about the Gulf Coast. Is there something special about the Gulf Coast? And in what ways did the Gulf Coast imprint itself on you as a musician?
Well, I mean, in terms of like coming out of New Orleans, going down I-10, going through, Moss Point, Mississippi, or going through like Alabama, what's that, Mobile, that whole scene. It's just something that's magic about it to me. But to me, it all kind of starts in New Orleans as you head east.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the atmosphere. There's something about like the feeling of the blues, the feeling of jazz coming out of New Orleans, jazz and the blues, really all kinds of music. That's just something about it, you know. I had some of my first gigs literally right on the Mississippi Gulf Coast in a little small restaurant with this great bass player who used to drive in from New Orleans, and it was just great. And the food, oh my gosh, the food, man. But yeah, it's a special place, you know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Great. So tell me about your parents. Tell me about young Leon growing up musically in a music educator household. How did that shape you?
Yeah, well, I've been dealing with music ever since I was in the womb. My mother tells me this story of we were at one of my father's high school band concerts, and there was this big percussion break in the piece, whatever the piece that they were playing. And she said, during the percussion break, I kicked her so hard. And fast forward, she's like, I understand why you play drums now. But it was great, man. I was the little kid sitting under the ladder outside in the hot sun while my father was teaching drill to the marching band or whatever. When we would go inside and he was rehearsing the band, I would go in the drum room, and that was just me. I was always kind of around, you know. And as a little kid, when I got kind of too old to go to daycare, but was still in that little bridge in between, they would just take me to work with them. So my mother taught choral music. So I would go and sit in her classroom, and while she was rehearsing singers or what have you. When my father had summer band, I would go, again, sit out on the field, go in the drum room, or go listen while he was rehearsing the band or what have you. I just grew up in that environment. And so I think it was always in me. That's all I've kind of known since I've been a kid. I mean, I played sports and played ball and stuff like that too, but that's just always been in me. Like, I always knew as an older person I was going to be involved in music some kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How did those experiences with your parents lead to your approach to parenting now? And I'm thinking about one of your sons, Nigel, is a drummer.
Mhm.
How did you bridge that relationship with him? Were you the kind of drummer, performer parent that was telling him that he's got to take lessons? Were you sort of hands off?
I was more hands off, but my father was kind of like that with me too.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in my earlier years. He just let me be a kid. So, you know, I grew up in a neighborhood where we would go outside, play baseball or shoot basketball at somebody's house and play, street football or whatever, touching the street tackle on the side on the grass. Whatever. He just let me be a kid. But I did start playing in a neighborhood drum line, like a community drum line when I was little. Like, I had to be 8, 9 years old, something like that. So I kind of caught the bug then, but it was still just, learning things by ear, learning things by rote, stuff like that. And when I got to junior high school or middle school, is when I started to kind of understand, like, oh, I'm reading this now, but I've already been playing this. So I understand what this is. And once he saw that I kind of took to it like that, by the time I got into high school, he said, have you ever thought about taking lessons? So I said, not really, but, I would be into that idea. So he hooked me up with the principal percussionist of the Shreveport Symphony. And I started taking snare drum lessons. And so we did a little mallet study. I also worked on some timpani with him. So I got a decent foundation as a percussionist.
Right.
Now, in high school, I did everything else. We did marching band, played in concert band, all that kind of stuff too. But I was also listening to pop radio. I mean, I'm a child of the late 60s, so I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. So all of that music that's compacted between the 70s and 80s and mid 90s or so, I grew up on that music. So aside from listening to, band music, Gustav Holst's Suite in E flat or, Check 5 or, Beethoven 9 or what have you, I was also hearing Gladys Knight. I was hearing Stevie Wonder. I was hearing Earth, Wind and Fire. I was hearing all of that music at the same time. So yeah, he just said, well, taking with a teacher will kind of help you bring together all of these things that you're kind of experiencing and kind of make it make sense. So I started taking lessons when I was like starting high school. In terms of my kids, specifically, let's say Nigel, all of my kids played musical instruments. I have 4. So my daughter played trumpet in high school for a while. She went to Rickards. Nigel took up drums. I mean, we could kind of see it. And I don't know if you recall this, but sometimes when we would have jazz band concerts or faculty concerts or what have you, my kids would always come up on stage after we would perform, and Nigel would always make his way over to the drum set. All of them would, but Nigel would get up on my lap and he would take my sticks and just like play time. But it was like in time. It was like scary. Like his feet couldn't even touch the pedals. But he would play like in time. And one of my students, or maybe Rodney Jordan, picked up the bass and played with him, and he was like in time with them. And he had to be 2, or something like that.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I did what my father did. I just kind of let them be. They came up playing. They played city league football. They played travel ball, baseball. They did AAU basketball. I mean, I just let them be the kids that they wanted to be. And even all through high school. Now, Nigel, well, they all played in band in middle school. Nigel, my son, who's also a drummer, played in high school. He went to Lincoln at first, and then he transferred over to Leon and finished. But I never said you need to get lessons. I think one of the reasons why is because he kind of grew up like me around the program, and he would always come and go to my office and sit in there and play and work on things. And sometimes I would give him like a book, like, hey man, check this book out. I wouldn't say I'm going to give you lessons on this. I would say, hey man, check this book out. And then at first, you wouldn't hear anything, but then a few days or a week or so later, you'd hear him like working on stuff out of the book or something like that. But I don't know if you realize, but Nigel was also my student here at FSU.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Nigel just graduated this past spring. He lives in New Orleans now, but he studied with me for 4 years. So that's where his lessons came in.
I see.
Yeah.
So that is a fairly hands-off approach. I mean, I can't imagine somebody who has your level of mastery and dedication to the drum set. Here's your son expressing an interest, and your whole profession is teaching drum set.
Yeah.
And you just suggesting a book.
Yeah.
That's a lot of restraint, I think. I'm not sure as a parent. I have a 6-year-old son, and I oftentimes see some directions for him, and it's very hard not to get involved.
Yeah, I just let him, I didn't want to force the drums on him. I wanted him to come to the drums.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's from a more natural, holistic way. He's doing it for his own reasons. Yeah, not because of his relationship to his dad. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Okay, let's move on to some of your musical choices.
Sure.
So I asked you to give me a playlist of 10 tracks that made you. And the first track that was on there was Coltrane's Love Supreme.
Yes.
Can you talk to me about your relationship with that track? Either Requiem, specifically Requiem. Is that the first?
Are you talking about
like part 1?
Yeah, because it's in 4 movements.
Four movements, right? So is it just part 1, or is it?
It's Acknowledgement is the first movement.
Acknowledgements, right?
Yeah.
Or is it the whole suite that speaks to you?
It's literally the whole suite. It has a spiritual connotation to it. Coltrane was deeply spiritual. And so, and if you read the liner notes inside the album cover, he talks about that. But that's initially what brought me to the music was the sound of it. The more I listened to it, the deeper I got into it, the more I understood what's behind the meaning of it. I got into it even deeper. But on the surface level, one of my favorite drummers is on the record, Elvin Jones. And I fell in love with the John Coltrane Quartet at the same time, but I hadn't quite heard a Love Supreme yet. I heard a few recordings of Coltrane. My father had a Love Supreme, but once I put that record on, it's like I couldn't stop listening to it. The same thing happened to me with Miles Davis's Kind of Blue. Like I put the record on, and it was something about the record sonically, just the space and everything. It was just like, man, what is it about this recording?
Does everybody feel that way about Kind of Blue? Because I feel the same way. I haven't met anybody that doesn't list that in one of their top albums that changed them.
I think Kind of Blue has converted a lot of non-listening jazz folks to jazz.
Right. I would put myself in that category as a young music student. When I heard that album, I got it. It was accessible to me in a way that I was able to see the brilliance in jazz through that album.
Yeah, we suggest that record to many first-time listeners, and we introduce a lot of students, a lot of times through our jazz camp. We'll say, who in here has this record by Miles Davis called Kind of Blue? And you might see a few hands go up. It's like, everybody needs to get Kind of Blue and check it out. And then we'll have students that may come multiple summers, and they'll come back the next summer and they'll say, Mr. Henderson, I finally got Kind of Blue and I can't stop listening to it. It's just, it brings you in, and it's all kind of built around the mystique of Miles. Yeah.
Right.
But that's what it was for me with Coltrane. It was something about what's inside him that I was seeking, like, man, what is it? It's just like you can hear him searching through the instrument, and not just him by himself, but his support system of the rest of the musicians in the band. It's just the record just goes from here to here to here. It just, it gets so deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I listened to all of the tracks on your playlist over the last few days. Love Supreme being one of them. I mean, I've listened to Love Supreme countless times. I don't think that I've listened to it maybe in the last 5 years because jazz isn't often in my rotation.
That's fine.
And I listened to it last night, and those same chills came back. And what it was for me as a non-often jazz listener, it was the way he plays around with that motif. And that motif is coming because you've heard it before,
Yeah.
The titular motif. And he just toys with it. I mean, first of all, it's in the bass. But even if you're not listening to the bass, you're just listening to the saxophone, and he just spends 4 minutes, 5 minutes leading up to it. It doesn't come out until like minute 5 or 6, and then when it does, it's like. And so when you speak about the spirituality that informed that album, it seems like there's a dedication to practice. For Coltrane, and also maybe jazz generally, that the connection to the self, the connection to others, the connection, vertically to somebody higher is coming through that.
It's all there. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like this dogged focus on understanding this, whatever this phenomenon is.
Right.
And that's what I hear in that track, is how much he's just coming to the discovery. The discovery happens after a long time.
Yes, I completely agree.
So let me transition then to the other question, or the other track that this reminded me of. DJ Jazzy Jeff's Practice.
Man,
are these? Is there a central thesis between these two tracks and what it means to be dedicated to something?
Yeah, I think so. Well, there's some layers to that recording, Practice. First of all, he takes that loop from Allen Iverson, the famous, man, we're talking about practice. Not a game, it's just practice, But what he's also saying too is that doing what I do as a DJ takes practice. Like, you have to work at the craft. You just don't sit down and it just happens right then. It's something that you have to work on over and over. And it goes back to, like, if I'm going to play the drums, if I want to play well or what have you, I have to practice and not just learn a lick, but I have to, like, do things repetitiously over and over and study and work. That's what I get from that tune. And then the fact that he layers in some, like, really slick samples of some like old school R&B, old school jazz. I mean, Jazzy Jeff. I mean, that was his thing, I just think the track is put together so slick. And man, the MC, his name escapes me right now.
It's J Love.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, J Live.
Oh, J
Yeah,
Live. Right. Sorry,
yeah.
my eyesight.
Yeah, yeah. J Live is a brilliant MC. He's not just, he doesn't just spit lyrics out and it's just like corny or just like hook stuff. Like he's dropping knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like about it. Like he's from that period of 90s hip hop that I love.
Yeah.
Tribe Called Quest, Mos Def, all those cats.
Yeah.
He's from that ilk to me. And and Jazzy Jeff behind that track, it's amazing. I see it the same as some Duke Ellington or, some Miles Davis. It's the same to me. I know some people say there's no comparison, but man, it's the same. Artistically, it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for you, when you're talking about this focus on music, musical practice, performance, do you find a sense of spirituality? I mean, you said that you find the spirituality in the listening, or
Sure.
you can discover Coltrane's spirituality through the track. But when you're dedicating yourself,
Sure.
is there some sort of connection to something else outside of you?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
man. It's that informs my playing.
Uh-huh.
I'm just a vessel. I'm just the music comes from another place. It just travels through me. That's how I see it. And
Uh-huh.
and me as the performer, I translate it to the listener. But yeah, man, it comes from a place inside you. So that's why we tell students all the time. It's like, yeah, you can play notes and rhythms and dots on the page, man, but like that's not music. Music is coming from in here.
Right.
So you have to play it from the inside of yourself. That's your complete self-expression. That's what's so beautiful about, our Black American art form, which is jazz, is that it's totally like your self-expression, man. It's there from like early spirituals to the blues. It's all there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to pull in a quote here. This is a Wynton Marsalis quote. He said in an interview once that excellence is a form of protest.
Mm.
And he went on to discuss the insights that jazz has in declaring that protest.
Mhm.
So I hear this connection between your musicality and, the self, and how the self relates to something much larger than the self. How does jazz relate outside in society? I guess another way of asking this question is, what might jazz have to say about the world that we're in today?
Well, I'm sure you've heard this saying before, but the art imitates life. So to me, that's it right there. We have to understand that a lot of these musicians that preceded us lived at a different time. So, just thinking about Ellington and his composition, Black, Brown, and Beige, or, Charles Mingus, composing, the album Mingus Aum, just those records to me convey what was happening at the time in America. And so the music kind of reflects that, jazz musicians travel all over the world. They write and compose about their life experiences. I think about Ellington in that way. He wrote about his experience as an African American in America, but also like his travels around the world. His music is about that, I think about Charlie Parker, being a major innovator in terms of like helping with the creation of modern American music, or modern jazz, if you want to call it, bebop, and he wrote a composition called Now's the Time. Well, that tune became political because that tune was written after World War II, or maybe during World War II, but it definitely picked up traction after World War II. And it was like this new outlook, especially with like a lot of these African-American soldiers returning home from World War II and still have to face discrimination at home and stuff like that. And I think that tune rang a bell, like, man, now's the time for America to move forward. That's, and it kind of was adopted by the civil rights movement that came out of the mid 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's all of that,
So then what's the relationship with jazz and today's climate?
Man, that's a difficult question because I've heard that question asked many times. But I heard a good friend of mine named Nicholas Payton say, well, man, the truth is now. So people are composing new music still with the tradition in mind, like where the music comes from and who the innovators are, but you can only, kind of in many ways reflect how you're living your life now. So yeah, there's a current political climate now. There's just trying to survive and live now, and sometimes your especially your original music is gonna speak to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and there's Terrence Blanchard said, another great musician that from New Orleans that I've had a chance to play with before, said, there's a movement of like young musicians right now that have something to say, and we're seeing that. Some people call it new jazz or whatever, but it's just their experience now, and it pulls together. Yes, it pulls together the 50s and the 60s and some of the swing era and all of those eras that preceded it, but it also pulls in funk music and R&B and gospel and hip hop, and it's blending all of that now, even world music. It's like that's the sound of like today.
Yeah,
that to me, because I hear it in our students.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's great. I've got this whole detailed list of questions, and you're doing just a cross section across all of them. I love it. I love it. Hey, let's do some music and to see how this goes. Okay, so if you wouldn't mind standing up here, and you can sort of swing your mic around, we're gonna jump to the turntables real quick.
Okay, so I'm going where?
Yeah, if you can stand right here.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go, and you can sort of move the mic however you want. Yeah, does that headset work?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just
good.
want to make sure. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I wanted to try something, and it's quite hard to get these wonderful albums or these wonderful tracks that are great by themselves and try to work them in some sort of DJ kind of context, because DJing is so much about beat grids and but obviously
that's an art too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, certainly. But Love Supreme wasn't recorded with a click track.
Right. Yeah.
So making it work. What I was wanting to do is see if I can blend some old and new. And I have something, but I kind of want to see how this goes. So here, let's do this, man. Let's I want to show you sort of the affordances of turntables, and you already sound quite knowledgeable about what can happen on turntables, right? So these, of course, are digital turntables, not working with vinyl here. I've got a Love Supreme loaded up in the left deck, and I have Nights by Nights in the right deck. And there's a few things we gotta think about here. One is key, and the other one is BPM, right?
Okay.
We gotta get those to match. Now, Love Supreme BPM, it's kind of all over the place. Another thing, and I don't know if you know this about turntables yet, but the current state of the art with turntables, especially digital turntables, is what's called stem separation.
I've heard the term, but yeah.
We can, on the spot, strip out any part of the music just by pressing a button. It used to be that you have to pull in whatever to get acapellas, and your computer would spend like 20 minutes trying to pull out the bits or whatever. Now you can do it on the spot. So here, I'll give you just a quick example. Here's Cameo. Let's take it from, here we go. We'll wait for the vocals to come in. Classic sample. All right, check this out. Just take out the drums. You can just isolate anything. Now, it turns out that the take out the vocals. So it turns out that the model that this is trained on is essentially contemporary pop music. So it doesn't do well with like vocal jazz. It doesn't do well with funk, anything from like an earlier production period. But it does an okay job. There's only a little bit of artifacting. So that's one thing that we can do. And then we can also do loops. So here, let's start a loop right now. Or we can just do the instrumental loop. Same thing, just get rid of the vocals, right?
That's killer.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. And then, of course, there's all sorts of other stuff like filters. Yeah, sort of classic. All right, so I want to put Love Supreme together with something. And the best I was able to do was Nights by Nights in terms of BPM. But here's my first question: Is it? Oh no, that's okay. My first question is it offensive to do this with Love Supreme? Because I view and I've read quite a few papers about Love Supreme. There's an entire church that was created
right.
in honor of
in
John.
Los Angeles. Yeah.
Right. And so here I am thinking like I'm going to take this track that led to this whole Christian sect
Mhm.
and then just use it as fodder for my for my platters. You know what I mean?
It's all
Like,
good, man.
it's all good. You think so? I'm wondering. Yeah, you're kind of a historian, right? What would Coltrane think about this?
Yeah. Coltrane might dig it, man. Coltrane was already moving in a very forward direction when he was closer to when he passed in 1967. He was way beyond playing bebop and hard bop and stuff. He was in another zone, man. So yeah, he might have moved into this. He might have embraced it had he still been around.
Right. He would have beat Herbie Hancock to it. He would have.
Yeah, I mean, Miles was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll never know, but yeah, Coltrane might have been like, hey man, yeah, that's the next thing or whatever,
Okay, this is a bit of a challenge, but let's see if we can channel that to see what we can do with these. Again, I'm picking from the 10 tracks you selected. Maybe
Sure.
if we were to do this, we would select something else besides Cameo. But here's kind of what I have, man. I have Love Supreme. One thing that DJs like to work with is that they like to work with a beat, something that they can
Sure.
loop, that they can make like an instrumental bed, right?
Mhm.
So we've got this here. We can sort of trim out the hi-hats here. Yeah. All right, so we've got that. Then we have other iterations of that. Yeah, a little bit of a glitch there. We fix it. And then we have, once he comes in with the vocals.
Love supreme, love supreme, love supreme, love supreme, love supreme, love supreme.
Yeah, so then with Cameo,
Sound like you slowed it down a little bit.
I
Yeah,
did,
yeah.
yeah. So this is slowed down significantly, and Love Supreme is sped up a little bit, trying to find, the BPM to match. So I don't know, man. Do you have any ideas between these two tracks? Like one area that you'd blend with the next?
Yeah. Only thing is, I know it's going to be in two different keys,
It is in two different keys. We can change the keys, which
but like the groove. And if you hook that up with Love Supreme, Love Supreme. Like this.
yeah, great. That's exactly what I was thinking when, when I was
okay.
putting these two tunes together.
All right.
Although I was having a hard time doing it with Love Supreme, I
Yeah.
did it with the earlier part with just the bass.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Let's try the bass first and see if we're able to make that work. And then maybe we can try the other one later. All right. So, and I'm going to try to sort of deputize you, put you on the decks to see if you're able to do this. Now, there's a bit of a beat. There's a bit of a beat juggling thing happening here, where you got to match up the tempos, and then every now and then it's going to slide out because
right.
the tempos are never exactly right. So I just want to show you something here. If you spin the outside of a platter this way,
That slows it down?
It slows it down just temporarily. And then if you do it this way, it sort of moves it forward temporarily. So these are the tempo faders, right? But then this outside is going to jog it forward or jog it back, right? So let's go ahead and launch the Love Supreme. What do you think? Do you want to keep the cymbals? I kind of like them because they
Yeah,
sort of
that's
grow
cool. Yeah.
into the, yeah. All right, so then, and we're going to try to match the tempos here. Let's speed Love Supreme up as much as we can, man. All right, I'm going to just test this out to see how this works. 1, 2, 1.
It's a little, yeah. It's close.
Yeah, it's close.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we know it works kind of. So let's go ahead and see if you can get this going. I realize this is a big challenge here. Have you ever done turntables before?
No.
Okay, you're such a fan of DJing, so this is your first introduction to it. All right, so what you're going to do is, if you see here in the upper part of the screen, you can see that that's where we are in the loop, right? So we're right starting at the loop, da da bum, right? And so if you were to press play, that would start playing. Yeah. Yeah. And stop. Great. And then here we can press the orange hotkey, and that's going to take us back to where we're talking about. And then you press play there, and it gets going. I'm looking at the tempos here, and I'm noticing that the tempos are like a little bit different, but I don't trust those tempos because the way that the computer is reading the tempo of Love Supreme, who knows how right that is, right? So then, like you were noticing, you got to kind of like move it forwards or backwards to kind of get it going. So let me step out of the way and see how this
if I can
feels
do
for
this?
you. Yeah.
This is crazy. So start here, though.
Yeah, start that, get it going. And that's currently set, so you only have to hit the play button there.
That's it.
That's it. First try, man. Yeah. But you kind of have to write it because it's going to go in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe even more. Oh no! Cool. Okay, now let's see if we can do the same thing. If we go to the other, let's see if we can get his vocal "Love Supreme" going.
Yeah, see that faster here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what the music does. It breathes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see here, I'm adjusting the tempos here. So now it should be the same, but who knows if that 137.5
is going to match this one.
Exactly, right. So then let's go back. So this is the original spot where you were. So yeah, and then you might find that you need to do this even more to get it going. You know?
Yeah, they're definitely faster.
That's it, man.
That's it.
This is great, man. All right, what else would you do musically with this? You could do some filtering stuff out. You want to keep drums on Love Supreme?
What if we took the vocal out?
Take the vocals out, man. Press that vocal button. Right, so here's what you're doing is you're funkifying Love Supreme rather than jazzifying Hampton.
I guess, maybe. Yeah, because I think that's what a lot of DJs like Jazzy Jeff or, DJ Premier or guys like that do. And I know this for sure, like they go through crates of like old jazz records all the time.
Yeah.
And they'll, man, I like this, this line in here, whatever. And they'll put that record on, and then they'll chop it up with something else, a beat from, from some other thing, and kind of, put that on top of it or whatever. A great young musician talks about this, named Robert Glasper.
Yeah,
He's really, he has a great description online about like how cats do this. He talks about Dilla. People listen to Dilla when they can. And those guys that will take a lot of this music and kind of chop it up and splice it, and take these samples and like, and put one on top of the others. A lot of times he talks about like pitch and bringing the pitch to make it work in the same key.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Well, let's continue that same line of questioning. We'll transition back to this scene. If you want to move your mic back.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Never done that before.
You should incorporate it into your performances, man. Well, so you were just mentioning Dilla in talking about how people go about creating in this space, right? I mean, Dilla wasn't a turntablist,
right? Yeah.
And I don't know if you happen to read that recent book that came out about him a few years ago.
No, I haven't.
It's called Dilla Time.
Okay.
And that's kind of when you walked in, I was playing Dilla because I think he kind of encapsulates maybe a lot of your musical interests. He viewed himself as a drummer.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah, and his approach to time
Sure.
was that, and so when you think about like studio production and people making beats that are quantized and beat grid, I mean, he was very, very meticulous. That's one thing that everybody said about him, is that he was a personality when it came to producing his beats. But he didn't want to bring it into a digital audio workstation the way that other people did. He wanted to perform it. And I think that's something kind of interesting about him.
Yeah, I have another son, Nigel's younger brother, that does that. The one I told you who went to Leon High School. He got into he has his own studio here in town. It's a little small studio, but yeah, that's what he does. Is he makes beats, and he takes a lot of stuff that he heard growing up that we played around the house, or stuff like that, and you hear a lot of that old school R&B or some jazz records inside of what he creates too. So I kind of understand the world that you're talking about, even though I'm not like directly in it. But I understand what you're talking about because I've heard some of his work, and it's really good.
Yeah, it's so opaque to me. Like I'm in music education. I've thrown myself at beat making and studio production so that I can understand it enough to create different kinds of opportunities in the classroom. And I mean, not a day goes by that I don't leave here incredibly excited and frustrated about the opportunities that it provides. Yeah, it's just such a musically rich environment for people to create in.
Sure.
You said earlier that some people don't feel that way about this contemporary stuff, and that is not a belief that you have.
No.
What's the connection between what your son is doing and what you're doing?
I think the connection might be, I guess I'm trying to see how to answer that question. I mean, the obvious connection for me is drums, but he's coming up at a different time. He's listened to things that I haven't checked out before. And he's checked out what I do and what he's heard my students do and what he's listened to when they were kids going to the football game or whatever. But I'm checking out things that he's into as well. Like, to me, that's the common ground. It's like here's what, here's Elvin Jones, here's Tony Williams, here's Roy Haynes, here's Kenny Clark. Who are you listening to in addition to these guys? Oh, well, I'm checking out this person, that person. Some of these guys I've never heard of, but they're of his generation, And then when I listen to him, I'm like, man, he's playing, or whatever. So, like, I think that's the common ground connection. Even with my son Vincent, who's works as a producer and a beat specialist, if you want to call it that. I'm checking out what he's doing, and I can hear like the now, but I also hear the history in what he's doing too. Like, that's the common ground. Like, I can hear, like, I understand, like, man, you've been listening to Anita Baker, but I never would have thought to put Anita Baker in this space and make it sound like this or what have you, you know.
Yeah. You said common ground a moment ago. Looking at your playlist, all of your, I think this is true, all of the performers on here are Black. And the musics that we've been talking about today are all Black American music that maybe some people would say are different, that they're not entirely related.
Sure.
It seems like you're drawing a connection between the two. And I'm wondering if you're willing, as somebody who's very knowledgeable about so many genres, what is that lineage? Are we talking about like the last poets? I mean, is that what we're going back to? Or is the lineage just that hip hoppers started bringing in, you know, like you said, Tribe, you know, or
no, it definitely traces itself back to the last poets. Like what they were doing is like pre-hip hop, you know, and hip hop was produced out of the marriage between disco and like funk. You know, that's when those two married each other. And some people even say like rock music, like that kind of produced hip hop. But lyrically and the message, like you got to listen to the last poets. You got to listen to, what's his name? Gil Scott Heron. Yeah. You got to check out those kind of cats because they laid that groundwork for the Commons and for the, you know, Most Defs or the Talib Kweli's or the Q-Tips or, you know, or the Black Thoughts or any of those cats. Like that's, to me, like that's where they kind of come from. Like that's that core foundation. And then you have to also listen to like to me, there's also like the importance of the drum and the sound of the drum. Now that goes back to like Africa, you know, but it changes over time, you know, through time, through jazz, you know, through early jazz, you know, pre-swing, through bebop, you know, out of bebop, you know, you get a lot of like the early R&B drummers and, you know, that what they call rock and roll was really rhythm and blues and that whole experience. And then you got the 60s with like the Beatles and Motown and you know, you got all these like Chuck Berry and Little Richard and those cats and Bass Domino. But you also have, you know, Miles started checking out what Sly Stone was doing. You know, I mean, it's all kind of interrelated. But yeah, man, but that to me, all of that kind of leads into like early hip hop. And you're talking about like maybe even the late 60s, but definitely like the early 70s with the last poets and those cats. And I think the really conscious hip hop cats understand that.
Right.
Yeah.
So then there's a shared relationship, not just about drums, but also words, message.
Yeah.
I was saying to you earlier, I used to be a steel band teacher. That was sort of my first area of focus. So doing that, I became very invested in calypso and understanding that. And one of the connections that other people have made is the man of words tradition. You know, African diasporic music being about that, and people oftentimes make a connection between calypso and hip hop in terms of you know, lyricism and importance of lyrical battle. Yeah, right. So the importance of the consciousness. Yet there are silos that perhaps separate these two. Jazz has its trajectory, and I only understand it in very broad terms, but it has a trajectory outside of academia that then gets brought within the institution. And then now jazz is squarely in the institution. It's also outside of the institution, but it exists here. And you're an example of that. And you've seen that happen over the last 3 decades.
But I also learned the other way too, because a lot of the music is passed down through the oral tradition. So, you know, they didn't have music schools back in the 20s and the 30s where you could go study jazz. That wasn't happening.
Right.
So that's how you learned it. I mean, you learned it from the elders and you watched and, you know, maybe took a lesson or two with musicians around you, but you learned the music by ear and by rote. So even the early big bands, you know, they learned a lot of the big band compositions came from like the riff style. They would, you know, set up on stage and strike up a blues, and the saxophones would come in with a riff line, and then the trumpets would answer it, and the trombones would find something to say, and then next thing you know, they're composing right in front of you, and then that's usually kind of like supporting a soloist. That's so that's how Basie started. A lot of people started like that,
Right.
and then through time, there were more through composed compositions. You get to somebody like a Duke Ellington or somebody like that, or Fletcher Henderson, that started to kind of write these compositions down and longer compositions and stuff like that. But yeah, man, it all traces itself back to that. Like that's that root.
Right.
Yeah.
So then what's the role of hip hop within this? And I guess what I'm wondering is there are a few programs kind of like being sprinkled in around the country that deal with hip hop directly. Sometimes this is in like an English department,
Sure.
or an African studies
Like
department.
humanities, maybe.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. One of the criticisms that people have made of jazz within academia is that it then becomes sort of codified and institutionalized.
Mm.
Again, I don't know enough about the history to have any opinion about that.
Yeah. There's a great jazz drummer named Art Blakey
Mm-hmm.
who made a comment one time. He said, and this might have been in the late 80s because he died in 1990. So yeah, this had to be late 80s where he just made a comment where he said, yeah, man, jazz is, after a while, jazz is going to become clinical. What he meant is we're going to learn how to play this music in school.
Right.
Yeah.
So then what happens? Hip hop is not a part of the school. That's one issue that I'm concerned about. I wish that it were more a part of the school.
There's some music programs that are moving towards a format like that. Like I know Berkeley has something that's similar.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's more geared towards like DJing, or I think they may even have a degree in turntableology or turntablist or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that term before,
Yeah.
where you go and like you actually study that art. Yeah, I don't know about emceeing, but I mean it's just lyrics and you're still dealing with rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
In some respects you're dealing with like inflection. You have to have a certain kind of wittiness about yourself, or like able to assemble words that make sense together. I mean, yeah, there's a connection there, but yeah, there is an oral tradition behind that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're speaking about the shared origins of jazz in hip hop. There's a lot of cross pollination.
Sure.
What are some exciting things happening within jazz that are connecting to hip hop? Hip hop is borrowed from jazz. In what ways is jazz now borrowing from hip hop?
Well, you have a lot of performers that grew up like they were. I mean, I remember when hip hop started, like when I heard the first like Rapper's Delight on the radio. I was maybe elementary school, and everybody around my neighborhood was like, man, what is that? Like they got like somebody like the actual song is like this song by Chic,
Yeah.
but they're not singing the words "Good Times." It's somebody like speaking over it, And we had a DJ friend of mine that had all these records that he would get before people would, before you would hear it on the radio sometimes. And but now you have kids that are like born, like it's a natural thing for them. We remember when it was new. These kids are born into it now. So even though they may, in their later years of being in band at school or whatever, decide they want to study jazz and get into jazz, they're still hearing hip hop. It's there. It's on the radio. It's on television. It's in commercials. It's on movie scores.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, so it's going to naturally make its way into your playing, maybe even your composition as well. So you can hear that reflected in the way that the musicians play. Even gospel music is the same way. You hear the influence of gospel and hip hop in a lot of jazz, like modern jazz recordings.
Mm-hmm.
You have some people that don't really, I hate to use the term, but don't really accept that, or if it's not straight ahead bebop swing or whatever, and it's not jazz or whatever. But nah, man, it's just I think it's just a natural progression of like all these art forms are just kind of converging together and it's creating this new sound.
So then how does the institution, whatever the institution is, maybe we're talking about Florida State, maybe we're talking about, the what's the Jazz Educators?
Jazz Education Network.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Jen. These institutions, how then do you think they should respond to this view that all of this is diverse music's coming from a somewhat similar place, that are the way that kids are experiencing it is they're all these cross waves just going on in their lives. But yet the institutions seem to be relatively narrow in their approach. Well, I guess first, let me first ask, is that a correct assessment? Does institutionalized jazz have a narrower perspective of jazz than the average musicians who's just out there in the world being musical?
Maybe that's a yes and no question. Answer, sorry. Maybe that's a yes and no answer. I think there are some institutions that are more like, this. And then there are some that are just like open, to like, hey man, this music has been done millions of times over. Why are you still continuing to try to recreate something that's what are you feeling? Like how,
Back to what you were saying earlier, it's got to be about a feeling.
Yeah. Like we want to hear your what kind of music are you writing? So, and there are some of these, I guess we call them, not necessarily a camp, but institutions like the Steins Institute or like the Betty Carter Jazz Ahead, where, these young musicians have to apply and they get accepted and they go into this maybe a week or so study with world-class musicians, but they're interested in like, what new compositions do you have? They aren't necessarily interested in they're interested in like, what are you composing now? Like, what are you writing now? Right. So, and we've had students that have been a part of these institutions. I mean, even recently, like last summer, great bass player, Caleb Tompkins, one of our grad students, did Betty Carter Jazz Ahead and also did the Steins Institute at the Ravinia Festival. It was all about new compositions, So I think the understanding should be, we need to understand the history of our instruments, like who the major innovators were, study the history of your instrument, and you need to study the history of the music. And if you can kind of get a grasp on that tradition, then you'll understand how to move it forward. You become that conduit, as you were saying earlier. Sure. Yeah, because it can't stay stagnant. Jazz is going to always change. It's not going to ever stay the same necessarily. So, and that's the beauty of like teaching at an institution like this, is because we see it in our students. We see, yes, they're studying Charlie Parker. They're studying Ellington's compositions. They're studying, my drummers are studying Elvin Jones, or they're studying Philly Joe Jones, but they're also listening to like gospel cats and funk cats too, and they pull all of that stuff into their playing, so they sound different now. But that's not to say that they sound bad or sound incorrect. It's just like they're just channeling all of these different influences, and it's coming out, and it sounds like this now. Yeah, evolution. Yeah, that's Are you familiar with Ed Sareth at the University of Michigan? Is he somebody you know? I know the name. I do not know him personally. Yeah, so he's, what is he? He might play trumpet. I actually forget his instrument, but he wrote a book called Black Music Matters, and he was a part of some music education task force that was trying to understand, I think it was for CMS, College Music Society. I was trying to understand, programs and offerings and curricula. And he ended up writing a very critical approach to higher education and what we're doing with music studies. So anyway, in his book, Black Music Matters, he makes this point. He says jazz is, he describes jazz as the most advanced wisdom system, a robust vehicle for creativity and consciousness evolution the world has ever known. And then he backs that up by describing what he refers to as contemporary improvisers, composers, performers paradigm, the CICP, because this is what academics do. They like to come up with little phrases. Anyway, so he comes up with the paradigm of the contemporary
improvisers, composers, performers. And he puts that in juxtaposition or in contrast to interpretive performance specialists.
Hmm.
And he says that music studies has for far too long been way too invested in interpretive performer specialists.
Meaning trying to repeat Charlie Parker or trying to, yeah.
Yes. And he's speaking mostly about classical music when he
okay.
says this.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But that's my question.
Sure.
My question is if he's saying that jazz, and he relates this to consciousness, and not just does he relate it to consciousness, but he relates it to the ability for having an evolved consciousness to fix the world and to fix our relationships with one another, right? He's coming at it from this spiritual
Okay.
standpoint, right? He's saying jazz is the framework to do that. So then this interpretive performance specialists are not in position to do that because they're just replicating. They're not trying to recreate the world in a better way. They're just trying to replicate. So I guess when I think about this and when I hear you talk and correct me if this isn't your perspective, but it seems as though the ability for the musician to engage in creativity, not just replication, is central to that connecting oneself to a greater purpose, that spirituality that Coltrane was delving into in Love Supreme. You can't just learn the notes to Love Supreme. That's not what that track is about. Either you have to invest yourself in understanding where Coltrane was coming from, or you need to come up with your own Love Supreme. And maybe it's going to sound a lot different in 2025 than it did in 1965.
Right. I'm just thinking about like what I tell my drummers, right? So we study all these great drummers. Elvin Jones, who worked with John Coltrane as well, but Tony Williams, all these great drummers. And I've had some from time to time say, well, why do we have to learn these transcribed solos? Like, why do we transcribe these solos from these drummers or transcribe their time playing or what have you? And it's to kind of help you get a good foundation, a solid foundation. But you can play this transcription, the notes that you've written down, note for note, and try to sound exactly like that drummer, but you're never going to sound like that drummer or that trumpet player or that saxophone player, what have you. The point of doing that kind of study is to understand the logic behind what those musicians were doing. So there's some analyzation that has to happen. You're also not necessarily always just transcribing notes and rhythms, but you're also transcribing sound. And you're trying to get to like intent. And so once you can kind of get there, and once you can kind of master that, then it's up to you to like put that inside of like what you do and how you can express that, but in like how you're hearing the music at that point. So what I tell my drummers is like, try to understand what Elvin Jones or Tony Williams is doing. And it goes back to like basic fundamentals sometimes, just like how to play a roll. How do you play a fast? What kind of rudiment is this? Et cetera. Those are like the basic essentials that you need, but it's how they put it in the context that they use it in these songs that we hear. But it's also like being able to extract that, figure it out, learn how to play it, and then take it where you can take it. Because it at that point, create it in your own way. And that's putting your voice out there with the understanding of learning the history of like, this very famous Max Roach drum lick or whatever. But it's like, when you play it, it should sound like you. But even then, you can take it and recreate it to something else that makes it you, that makes it yours.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I hope I'm answering your question.
Absolutely. You said earlier, I think you were quoting somebody when you said the truth is now.
Yeah, that's Nick Payton.
Okay. Yeah. That's. But the now is dependent upon what happened before it, and the now is also in service of what's going to happen next.
Sure. Yeah.
And so in that way, the performer who is dedicated to recreating the world is mediating the past and the future through the now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what a great field you're in as a performer. Like that must be so joyful.
Man. it's just this is the music that speaks to me.
Yeah.
And I feel honored to get the opportunity to speak it in my way, I guess, if that makes sense, or to like put my voice out there,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So
Yeah, totally. Okay, I'd like to transition to something entirely different.
Okay.
This next section is intended to get you to say things that that might get you into trouble or canceled or something like that. So we'll see how this goes.
Okay.
So see if you can think quick. Don't censor yourself, right? If somebody had to roast you, what's the one thing that they would absolutely bring up?
The way I used to run when I was a kid,
How did you used to run?
just awkward.
Just floppy arms.
Yeah, man. They used to call me. I had a nickname. My PE teacher called me Style Man. And it stuck, So yeah, I'm going back to childhood, but yeah, I think that's one thing. It's like how I used to run. I mean, I run totally different now, but yeah,
You fixed it.
I think that was a thing. Yeah.
That's funny, man. Style Man. That's a great name.
Yeah, I mean, but it was, I mean, he was kind of mocking me in a way, but it stuck. I mean, that was my elementary school like nickname. Yeah, it's crazy.
Is there anybody in your life that still calls you that?
No, because, man, if I run across somebody like that was from that time period, they may say that, but yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to try to put this out there to see if your students might start.
That's crazy, man.
All right. What's one piece of advice you constantly give but never take?
Oh man, I guess be patient. Sometimes I have to like check myself, but yeah, just be patient. I tell my students that all the time. Like, man, I just can't get it. I'm like, man, it takes time. You just gotta keep working at it. It'll come.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I get impatient and I want things to like develop now, whatever. So yeah, patience.
Yeah. That certainly goes for me too. What's a secret about your job that outsiders would be surprised to hear?
That is, man, I don't know if this is a right response. But okay, state the question again.
What's a secret about your job that outsiders would be surprised to hear?
I get paid to do what I love to do. I play drums all day. I might go teach a class for 45 minutes, but I'm in my studio all day playing drums, and I get paid for it.
That's pretty great.
That's what I can think of.
Yeah, you're winning, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, here's one that'll hopefully get you into trouble.
Uh-oh.
You're doing well so far. What's an aspect of your field that desperately needs disruption?
Yeah. I just think, okay. Say that question one more time.
What's an aspect of your field that desperately needs disruption?
Disruption. Yeah, I would just say, more African Americans, teaching in higher education, like in collegial settings. That can be a debate, but yes.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that there are too few African Americans in higher ed?
I don't know the reasoning why. Because then there's that word of that word of opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
like just having the opportunity. But I don't know, man. It's a difficult question. I mean, because there's not. I mean, a lot of people don't go into music. And I say higher education. I guess I'm meaning like teaching in music schools, kind of like more specifically. I mean, I kind of look at. Yeah, I'm about to get in real trouble. I mean, I kind of look at like what our faculty looks like here. I mean, you can count us on like almost one hand.
Mm-hmm.
And
isn't that interesting? Black music.
Well, now I'm talking about the entire College of Music. I'm not talking about just the jazz area.
Right. But
Yeah.
but let's take music, capital M music.
Okay.
or let's take music in America.
Mhm.
That's where we are. So much of music in America is black. It finds its origins.
American music, yes.
Right. But yet so few people in higher education, at our institution included, are black.
Yep. Some of that could be with the content. I mean, a lot of people still see American music as not serious music.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a priority to teach in a lot of universities. I'm not. Things are changing now. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, for the longest time, there's this thought of like I can just think of an experience I had where I was obviously as a drum set player, my focus was on like I really want to play drums. I want to play like like my goal was, man, I want to play with Wynton Marsalis. Like I want to do that. I had somebody tell me once, like, well, man, if you just want to go spend your life, in a smoky club, or whatever, then just go do that. And this is when I was like studying classical percussion, and it just it put a sour taste in my mouth. Because because they associate the culture with a lot of the things that have kind of been done in the past. I mean, heroin and all that kind of stuff. And it's that environment is not necessarily present right now. And I'm not saying that there aren't people that do that, but I'm just saying it's not a thing now where all the musicians are hooked on all this kind of stuff. And we just going to play in these places that are just like dive bars, and you got all kind of, debauchery going on. It's not that scene now. It's a new day, but that kind of gets labeled with it. And I think a lot of that caused a lot of people to feel like they don't want to teach that in these institutions. But, and then American music really is Black American music, and it kind of seeded everything else that we hear. I mean, even, there's the argument, I'm gonna get in trouble. There's the argument for like country and Western music. But if you listen to like early plantation songs, that's country music. And it's plantation songs mixed with like indigenous people's music as well. And then you start to hear like the early sounds of the blues. Like it's all wrapped up. Like you listen to some Charlie Patton, but you can also hear like some of that Choctaw Indian. Cause I came from New Orleans, man. It's all right there. Like it's all it's in the soil of the city. Like you can hear it. But people, you have to look at it like they look at the people themselves as people that are second class citizens. So why would we celebrate that music as being a music that's legitimate music? I've heard that term before, and I hate it. When people say, "Oh, I love to listen to jazz. I love jazz, but but I can't really play jazz. I'm a legit player." So that right there, to me, separates what you're saying is like illegitimate music versus legitimate music. Like what is that? Because I will tell you right now, man, it takes a lot much more difficulty to play jazz, to improvise a solo, to take something from nothing and create music in the spur of the moment like that, than it is just to like read something. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with reading music, but I'm just saying like it takes a whole, and then you still have to like produce a good sound on your instrument. You have to still have the rudiments of your instrument together. You got to play scales. You got to have arpeggiate patterns, in your playing. You got to know rudiments. You still have to know how to play your instrument. And then, master written music to a certain degree. But then to go beyond that and like create something from just like one written line, and you can like create a whole 5 minutes worth of music from, I mean, that's an amazing thing, man.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And I think, the jazz musicians were the ones that started playing the R&B music, and there were a lot of drummers from New Orleans that were great pioneers. Zigaboo Modelise, Earl Palmer, those guys left New Orleans and went out to Los Angeles and places like that. And they were some of those early drummers on those like early rock and roll records, and I'm sorry, early rhythm and blues records that were like heard on the Chitlin circuit. they heard them in black nightclubs and what they called race records at the time. But by the mid 1950s or so, these record companies started to say, "Oh, well, I can take that sound and capitalize on it." And then that's where you see, it's such a cliche, but but that's where you begin to see people like Elvis Presley, you know, you know, appear, or why the Beatles were celebrated so much. But the Beatles were just playing R&B music. They were, and they were into like Delta blues and stuff like. I mean, it's all of that music seeded what we now call rock and roll or rock music, and then you have soul and gospel music, like all of that. Yeah, American music is a thing, but I think it wasn't celebrated because of the culture of people that it came from. Like many people would even say that black musicians, like they didn't have the intelligence to create this art form of jazz. I mean, that was said. It's debated even to this day, I think. Because there's some, I don't know the complete ins and out of it, but living in New Orleans, there's a great jazz group that recorded, that made the first record. And some of those people that are descendants of that family argue against like black people inventing jazz, and it's not that black people didn't solely invent the music, but I think, you still gotta deal with like the roots of the blues and the roots of like gospel music and, the sound of the church and all of that. That's a big part of like the development of the music. Like you can't deny that, so. Anyway, yeah, I'm getting into a lot of trouble now.
No, I like it, man.
But
like
that's kind of, so yeah.
So I hear you about the identity of the musicians. A lot of people thinking that they're second class, so therefore we can't engage with this. And I also hear you when you talk about the racialization of genres, right? So like what's on the Chitlin circuit, what's country music. A lot of this stuff is decided upon by labels in order to work towards audiences.
I don't think the musicians think of it like that. They just it's just music.
Right, exactly. Right. And I get that's kind of what I was getting at earlier with the hip hop question too, is the musicians experience it just as music.
Right.
But I think that there are other barriers to. First of all, I think that you're correct that the biggest barrier to more representative faculty in higher ed is, I mean, obviously it has a lot to do with like access and opportunity, but it also has to do with what is considered legitimate and could be here, right?
But that's changing. It's slowly changing, but it's changing. I mean, even here.
Oh, right.
We with this community music program now, and we're expanding our commercial music program. I mean, we're trying to incorporate more. For a long time it was just like classical music,
right?
And many music schools were like that. If you wanted to play jazz, then you did that outside of the walls of the music school. That's a known fact. Yeah,
certainly. Yeah. But okay. So now there's. Obviously, there's some identity implications to excluding certain types of music. Obviously, if we're only involving classical music, we're dealing with a relatively narrow band of people that are creating that music. But I think the reticence to incorporate other kinds of music goes beyond race. Certainly involves race, but I think it's also just like really classist.
Sure.
Country music, for example, is seen as being just as illegitimate as hip hop within the institution. Those are both musics not worthy of study in higher education.
That music was passed down orally too.
Yeah, right, exactly. So now we're getting to something that has to do with what it means to be artistic or to be a musician. And apparently it means that you have to be hazed in memorizing music on a piece of paper rather than connecting to some sort of central creativity.
But see, I come from that world too. I look at musicians like Wynton Marsalis, who comes from that world too. Like we all played in our, high school and college orchestras and concert bands and, all that kind, yeah, man, wind orchestra, I did all of that. I studied four mallets. I played Bach. I mean, I studied, timpani. I played orchestral snare drum. I did all that stuff, man. But my heart was in like the music I grew up listening to on the radio. And when I started playing in jazz band in high school, I was like, man, I want to do this. You know, like this speaks to me a certain kind of way. But as a percussionist, yeah, I still was like, I was interested in like learning more about percussion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's just something that I always wanted to study was percussion. But I've always been a drummer. You know, at heart, man. I was the pots and pans kid. I was the kid that went in my father's band room when all the kids they would leave for the day and he would still be there wrapping up or whatever. I'd go in the drum room and I would just sit there and just play.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for taking the bait on that question to get you canceled. Let me get you.
It's all good, man.
Let me try to get you canceled in some other ways. I understand you're a big sports guy.
Yeah, man.
All right. So what's going on with Coach Norvell?
Man, I want to say no comment.
Hey, man, you're allowed to. You're allowed to back away from the question.
Yeah, man, I love football.
You love Florida State football.
Yes, I mean, I love football in general, but yeah. And I played a little basketball even all the way up through high school. It's just that I stopped growing once I got to about like 10th grade, and everybody else kept growing. So, but no, man, I just think Coach Norvell has kind of lost the team a little bit. Not really sure how to fix it. Because there's talent out there, and I came here in 1998, man, where FSU was like in the top 5,
right,
all those years and won a couple of championships, so I know what that looks like. We almost scratched the surface in 2023. And then there was the snub. Here's what I think happened. I think the snub hit the players that remained after that happened, not the ones that went into the pros, the ones that remained after that. And I think it hit him really hard. And I think he's still trying to recover from that. I think it dealt a really devastating blow when we kind of got not included in the playoff.
Right.
And I think he's been dealing with that.
Right. It's recruitment.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It affects everything because recruits saw that.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, do I really, Yeah, man, I think that was a real thing. And then, like I said, it's not for lack of talent. There's talent out there, man. And the other thing I would say, too, is like, man, you got to get a really good quarterback. Your field general has to be somebody that's right. And we just haven't had luck with quarterbacks since Jordan Travis. I think these guys are like really good young men, DJ Uyunglele and what's his name? Tommy Castellanos. I think they're good people, good young men. I just think they weren't that field general that would provide that spark in that locker room to make the players want to play for them as well. So maybe, what's this young guy's name? Starts with an S. I can't think of his last name right now. I'm sorry. But maybe he's the answer. Like, one thing that I've noticed is that we can't seem to ever develop a quarterback, at least recently, with the exception of Jordan Travis, I would say. Maybe not since Jameis Winston. We haven't seen quarterback development. Maybe this guy can be that if they kind of stick with him and not necessarily go in the portal searching for a quarterback to come in, because then that also discourages them, and that's why they all transfer out.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of portal, the portal opened up today.
Don't tell me the floodgates opened up.
And DB coach Patrick Surtain.
Right. I did. Yeah, I saw that.
He's gone. And oh god, what's the player's name? The defensive back. Anyway, he entered the portal. So there does seem to be some exits happening.
I mean, but that everybody's dealing with that. I mean, I've seen there's several quarterbacks. I think the quarterback from Nebraska entered the portal. The quarterback from Florida entered the portal. These were all like high recruits. So yeah, everybody's dealing with it. So that's the new thing now. It's like, building your team out of the portal, but you still got to deal with high school recruits. Like you got to get them here and you got to develop them. Like you got to blend your program together like that. I think we hit it in 2023, but we didn't have good luck in 2024, and it wasn't a great year in 2025. But just I don't think it was. I think it was a lack of chemistry too, and sometimes that kind of goes up the chain, and you're looking at your head coach,
Right.
So, but I think he's a great guy. I just think, I just think that snub thing is. I think that's what kind of ultimately did to me. Because, man, I just watched his face. Because, they show that.
Yeah.
They showed that, because we're thinking we're going to, be one of the playoff teams. And then you just saw that air get sucked out of that room.
Yeah.
Guys just hung their heads. They stood up and walked around. And you just saw him just drop his head like this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just took all the air out.
Yeah.
It's hard to recover from something like that.
Yeah.
When everybody says, well, if you win all your games.
It wasn't right.
And if you win your conference, you're in the playoff.
It wasn't right.
Yeah. So that's what
So do you give him a buyout?
Man, you gonna really get me in trouble, huh? Okay. I would say yes. I think it needs to be a changing of the guard.
Uh-huh.
Whether FSU can do that, I don't know. But I definitely think that ship has sailed. I think we need just a complete reset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, man, I have so many questions for you. We only have a few minutes left, so I want to see if I can get through them quickly. And then I had some more DJ stuff to do, Sun Goddess and Bouncy Lady. Maybe we can do that on the exit. We'll work that out on the exit. And then I also want to talk to you about your new album.
Okay.
But before we talk about your new album, let's talk about Christmas songs.
Okay.
What makes a great Christmas song? Are you putting Vince Guaraldi in your rotation? And also...
Love the Peanuts.
Yeah, okay, of course. Mariah Carey, where do you put her in your Christmas list?
Yeah, I mean, she has that hit, man. Like it's a standard now. Yeah.
Right. But apparently I looked up Billboard today to get a list of this. Wham's Last Christmas is currently in the number 2 slot.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So
Oh, okay. Have to I think I have to hear it again, but yeah.
All right. So you're okay with Mariah Carey being in the number 1 spot?
The number 1 spot? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. That song is, it has a very catchy melody. I mean, it hooks you right in.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Donny Hathaway guy. So this Christmas, that's when I know it's Christmas time.
When do you start playing it?
Hmm?
Like in the year, when do you start playing it?
Man, right after Thanksgiving.
Okay, that's what I do too
Yeah.
with Vince Guaraldi.
Yeah. And again, like Christmas time is here. And that's a lot of jazz musicians love that tune.
Uh-huh.
Just, harmonically. But really all of those tunes, man. I mean, when I work with Mr. Marcellus, he loved playing the music of the Peanuts, Vince Guaraldi, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they even did a record. He went and did a record. I'm trying to remember the name of the record, but it was like all of the Vince Guaraldi stuff.
Oh, that's great.
From Charlie Brown. Yeah, I remember when that record came out.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like early 90s, I think.
Well, let me talk to you about your album. And it's 2 minutes till. I don't know if you got a place you're cool with going a few minutes over?
I have a 4:30.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Mhm.
On campus.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I will make sure that we have plenty of time. You have spent much of your career as the go-to drummer for a lot of band leaders.
Wow.
And then you get this job at FSU.
Mhm.
You spend 3 decades hustling this program, developing it, adding faculty members, just churning out all of these graduates that are going out there and getting jobs. You're now at this place in your career and you put this album together. What did that mean for you to finally have the space to make a whole album?
Yeah, I felt like it was time. Everybody was saying, "Man, you ought to put a record out, I didn't feel like I was ready. I had other things I was trying to do. Yeah, I invested a lot in trying to get the program moving in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to play as much as I could as a sideman, trying to work outside of my teaching duties, just kind of get my name out there in that respect. But I just reached a point in my career where I just felt like I think now's the time, because I have a folder full of music, about a big stack of music. Like I probably have 3 or 4 records worth of music ready to go. So and I would play some of these tunes occasionally from time to time, but I never really just laid them down. So really what did it for me was I had to go to New Orleans once as a guest artist at the University of New Orleans. And they have a program called the Jazz at the Sandbar series. So I was the guest for that time. And it's kind of co-run by the owner of Snug Harbor Jazz Bistro. He partners with the university with that. So I went and worked with the students, and I played a concert with them and stuff like that. And part of the package deal is you do a performance at Snug Harbor. So when I arrived, Jason Patterson, who's the owner of the club, said, "Hey, Leon," he's like, "Man, we usually would play some of your music, while people are coming in and we're seating them and stuff like that. We don't have any music on you. Like, do you have any music out there?" And I was like, "No, I don't." He was like, "We need to change that." And that's when it hit me. He was like, "Man," so I was like, "Yeah, but man, I don't really have the money right now to finance a record." So this is what he said. He said, "Well, man, if you can find the money to do that," he was like, "you can record it here, live at Snug Harbor." Okay. So then I came back after that weekend, and I started investigating, looking into all these grants that we get as faculty, and I was trying to find is there a grant that would support you wanting to do a recording? And I, for some strange reason, thought for the longest time that there's nothing like that, but there is. I mean, what we do is the equivalent of those professors that write books, stuff like that. So I applied for a grant, and I got the award the first time. You have to explain what it is and all this kind of stuff. And I think what was also a selling point was it was all original music. It was all of my original compositions. And so I got the grant. So I had the money in place to actually do it. So I called Jason. And I was like, "Hey, Jason, I want to take you up on that idea." And I said, I want to hire, I want to bring my bass player from here, but I want to hire local musicians there. One of which is a former student of ours, Ricardo Pascal. And because he lives in New Orleans now. And so I say, and I would love to do a live recording at Snug Harbor. And so I talked to the engineer, the guy that runs sound at the club, and he said, "Yeah, we can put some extra mics in, and we can do some room mics. We can also close mic everything, and we can run it up into the board and get a nice dry, naked recording. And then from there you can have somebody mix it that has some really good ears." And that's exactly what we did. And I just took I selected the tunes that I wanted to do of my original pieces, and did some tweaks here and there, but arranged it for a jazz quintet, and went in and we recorded that music in 2 sets. So we did the same music twice, and I just took the best takes from each set, and that's the record.
What was your involvement in the mastering process? Because if for those that haven't listened to it, it's a very clean sounding album.
Man, I'm so thankful. I got it mastered in New York, but the guy that mixed it for me in New Orleans has the greatest ears, Chris. Man, he just has the greatest ears in the world. We sat, and I was there for the entire time. I didn't just send it to him for him to just I sat in the room with him, and we had everything facing me, the speakers, everything. He was like, "Do you want it to sound like you're sitting in the club, listening? The drums are over here, the bass is in the middle. Do you want it panned that way on the record?" That's how the record sounds. It's the drums are panned that way. He's like, "If you want it to sound exactly as if you're sitting in the club, we can do that. Or he's like, do you want more of like a stereo sound where everything's in the, So I said, and then he said, a lot of the earlier jazz recordings were like that, which is true. They were recorded where they separated those tracks, like those channels like that. And so that's how we did it. And we took some went up to Ruby Diamond and got these like see-through plastic sound shells, and we put them around the bass so that we could kind of deal with some separation of the bass so it wouldn't get in the way of the drums. Sorry.
That's right.
which was to the left, and the piano, which was to the right. So we got some of that bleed out of it. And it shielded him from the horns because they were right in front of him too. So he was kind of literally inside of a gate, but it's see-through. So,
right.
So we could still see everything. So that helped the sound a lot. We took the room mics, we took the close mics, and Chris just mixed it. And it was like great. And then the guy in New York, Chris Muth, is the one who did the mastering of it. He said it was like really easy to do because of the level of playing. Chris in New Orleans, Chris Butcher, sorry. It's two Chris's. Yeah. So Chris Butcher was the engineer that actually did the mix. And Chris said, he said, man, what makes this easy to mix is that the level of the musicians playing makes it easier to mix. I never thought about that, never realized that, but he's like, yeah, man, you guys all play great. This is easy to do. So we touched up a few things, but when we sent the mix to Muth, he was like, yeah, man, this is cool. He did it in maybe like a day or two.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So how do you select somebody to play with? That was easy. Yeah. That was easy?
Yeah. Rodney Jordan is like one of my favorite bass players ever. So it was a no-brainer to ask him to play on the record with me. I really have always, since he was a student here, I love Ricardo Pascal's sound on the tenor saxophone. And I said, if I ever did a record, whatever my first record would be, he would be on it. The piano player I met on another gig, we played at the Jazz Corner in Hilton Head, South Carolina. He was there with another former student of ours named Amina Scott, great bass player. And when I first heard him, I was like, man, I love the way he plays. And so the whole idea of me doing the record in New Orleans, I was thinking of a piano player to play with. I said, without a doubt, I'm going to call Oscar. So that's how Oscar ended up on the record. And then the trumpet player, there were a few different choices I had. My initial choice was a former student of ours named Etienne Charles.
Oh, I know Etienne, yeah.
Yeah, and but he wasn't available. So I asked Ricardo, I was like, hey, man, what trumpet players do you like to play with, in the city? And he named a few guys, but he said the one that sticks out to me that I think we have a great chemistry playing together was this trumpet player named John Michael Bradford. And so literally that's how the band came together. Mm-hmm. We rehearsed the music one day, and then we went in and we did a sound check, which is like a small rehearsal, and then we hit the gig. I mean, it literally is that.
Yeah, that's musicianship.
Yeah, and we only did 2 takes of each tune. So I wanted it to be what it was in that moment. And yeah, it's little mistakes here and there. I mean, I know sometimes people can't hear them, but I hear them. But yeah, but I'm like, man, leave that in there.
Yeah,
that's a part of the whole ambiance of it.
It's great. I mean, speaking of ambiance, the whole thing sounds great. It's so clean. I'm halfway through PJs, and then I'm like, oh no, this is a live recording.
Yeah,
definitely. And the audience comes in, and you're thinking like, oh, they added that in there.
No,
that is a live recording. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't sound like that. It sort of it sounds studio engineered, but it still has that breadth and flow between all of you as musicians. Yeah. Downbeat magazine has listed it as one of the best albums of 2025.
Yeah, that was recent. Yeah, it's going to be out in the January issue. Actually, I just got my copy. Yeah, and actually in an earlier issue of Downbeat, I got a 4-star review as well.
Okay.
Yeah, man, I'm really proud of this being my first ever, and man, I'm feel really blessed by that. So
yeah, that's incredible. So what's next? You got this binder with 3 albums worth of music.
Yeah. So the next thing I want to do is a studio project. So that's what I'd like for my next record to be. I'm not sure if I want to do it here in Tallahassee, or if I want to do it either in New Orleans, there's a studio that I like in Atlanta, or if I want to go to New York and do it. I'm not sure. But I do want to do a studio recording.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like to incorporate my son Nigel in on it. We've done some duo drum stuff before. I want to incorporate my other son Vincent in on it some kind of way. Because, I love playing straight ahead jazz, but, I listen to other music too, and I love to like play something behind like a sample that he does or something. And, I just ideas coming out of my head.
That would be incredible, and that connects to the conversation that we've been having all day about how all these things are related to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I know you have somewhere to be, but if I could trouble you for 5 more minutes, let's hit what you were just saying. Because you have so many different musical interests. We're talking about John Coltrane earlier, but I'm looking at your set list here. You obviously got Wynton Marsalis, Roy Hargrove, Herbie Hancock. But yeah, check this out. Cameo, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I didn't say Art Blakey earlier. Michael Jackson, Pleasure,
Yes.
and DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Yes.
So I have an idea of something we could do, but I also want to open it up to you. Do you see a couple tracks there that you want to try, or do you want me to kind of suggest something to you?
Man, I love Sun Goddess, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
It's a great track, and I think it works pretty well with Bouncy Lady.
Okay, yeah, let's. Okay.
You want to try it? Okay, cool.
Sure.
Let's step up here to the board.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's right, man.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, this desk is like always in process.
Oh, good.
Okay, great. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna load up. Leon. Sun Goddess here on the left deck. We've got Bouncy Lady on the right deck. Let's fix some BPMs, man. What are we going to do here? We're at like 90 for Bouncy Lady. So let's drop Sun Goddess down to 95. And these are kind of approximate, but actually with these, it might be pretty close. Okay, let's have a listen. Let's check out Sun Goddess. All right, now what I've already done, I've already hot cued a few things. As I'm listening for stuff, I'm listening for what are the musical materials in there. Obviously, that guitar riff is incredible.
Yeah.
You know, bass and drums come in. Maybe this is a separate loop that I can pull out. All right, we'll jump ahead here.
I love this part.
I'm curious how this does with just vocals. Not great. Again, the algorithm's trained on pop, so it doesn't do too well. Okay, and then we have this.
It's the instrumental part.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's go over to Bouncy Lady. I've only got sort of one section that I just hot cued the beginning here.
Bouncy, bouncy lady. Bouncy, bouncy lady.
Just because that's an incredible look.
Bouncy, bouncy
Yeah, it is. And, yeah, it's actually been used by Jazzy Jeff.
Oh, really? Okay. Dude, you're an encyclopedia.
Oh, man. And there's another section that's like really hip, too.
Okay. All right, where's your section that you're thinking of?
It's forward. It's towards the end. Yes, after this.
Well, actually, I'm going to cue this too because it's the...
One more loop. Or two more. This section here. I love that.
Okay, so let's try a little mashup here. What works from one into the next?
I don't know.
Now, the easy thing to do would just be find a loop and use that as a bed to
Mhm.
bring something else in on.
So let's do this.
Okay, you want to do
Bouncy, bouncy
as the bed,
lady.
or do you want to do?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go to here as a start of the loop. Let's see what this sounds like. Does that seem about right?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit. Let's grab. Yeah, that's it. Great. I love that, man. That's a good loop. Let's save this loop. I'll use this for my later stuff. Okay, cool. Bring this track down a little bit. All right. What are we gonna bring in to what are we gonna for Sun Goddess? Where do you want to drop in?
I'm trying to hear the key of the
Yeah, the key is going to be a little bit of a problem. It's
That's okay. Yeah. Yeah, maybe try it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. All right, so we got the work. So that's orange is the hot cue there. So go ahead and dial this back and go to the beginning of that loop. So that's ready to go, man. If you want to launch this, and then we're gonna next the little challenge here. Feel free to do stuff with the filters or the EQ.
Okay.
So here's the 3 bands of EQ and then the filter sweep if you want to do that.
All right. So hit this one, right?
Yeah, although we gotta jump back to the orange hot key.
Okay.
So hit the orange so it goes there. Right, so now it's ready to go. And press
And
play
then-
whenever, yeah. And then if you need to adjust the timing, you can hit the side here.
Yeah, it's lining up. Trying to get it lined up. Yeah. I see. Or it went on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard, man. It's
Yeah,
hard.
yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, even though they're playing like funk or whatever, it's still very organic. So it's not. Yeah.
Right, and it should be. And one criticism that people have of this kind of setup with the digital turntables that it's too beat based. It's house EDM, but that if you're trying to bring in other stuff, newer DJs don't have the skills of listening, and they don't know how to operate the platters in order to make it happen. So there's too many easy buttons, but those easy buttons don't work when you have something that's not click track.
Yeah, but the cats with like the what they call them, the techniques, but the SB12s, like those cats know. Yeah,
Right, and this gets back to here. Let's play ourselves out here with
think about Pete Rock.
right. So, I mean, I'm a tourist, man. I'm not even an amateur. I'm a tourist, and the ways that I've been musically humbled by trying to figure out how the heck to handle this thing is great. So yeah, perhaps going out with DJ Jazzy Jeff. That's great, man. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for the chat. It's I've wanted to talk to you for a long time. You've got a prolific career.
Wow, thanks, man.
Yeah, so it's really nice just to be able to connect back.
I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, cool. And I'll go out to closing the mic.
I ain't trying to be smart, Alec, but you sound like a dick. It shouldn't be so phallic. You wanna be hard, but you can't come correct. I done showed you how it's done to be show some respect. Instead, what you doing is showing you doing this. Why you pursuing the skill trade? You trying to get paid and laid before the groupies in the crop, man. The fact is, it takes practice.
We talking about practice. I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice. And we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice, man.
I heard it's better to be lucky than good. Well, in my case, I guess I'm lucky and good. I heard if not for bad luck, they would have no luck at all. To which my reply is, fuck all of y'all. I've been passed up, gassed up, bounced around, man. Thrown off the last to see what sticks. I have yet to score big like Allen Iverson. Maybe someday they could endorse a pair of kicks. But for now, long as I can afford a pair of kicks in the closet to put them in, I'ma put them on and walk these dogs. Get my hustle on. Break bread for my youngins so they grow up strong. That's why the flow grow after each and every show. And year after year, bring song after song. I heard amateurs keep doing it till they get it right. But pros do it so much, we